Alright guys, hope you're all doing well, hope you're all keeping safe. Title update 11.1 has dropped, which included huge changes to the summit, changes that we definitely needed. Now I've only played a little bit so far, so I don't want to comment on the update as a whole yet, but there is one aspect I was very excited for, albeit with some concerns, but it hasn't actually landed quite how I expected, nor how I think the community wants it to either. And I'm talking about directives, I'm talking about loot in the summit. Now on top of this, a new mask is also obtainable now, so I want to go over this stuff in this video. If you want to support me, the best thing to do is watch all the way until the end. You can like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff. And with that said, let's begin. So if you haven't been paying attention to the new changes implemented with TU11.1, either because you've been busy or you're simply not interested, which I don't blame you for, I want to briefly go over the changes made to directives so you're up to speed. So, directives now increase the chance for targeted loot to drop. Since introduced in TU6, targeted loot has been influenced by a number of factors, including difficulty. Now with TU11.1, each active directive adds a small amount to the total drop chance for targeted loot. This applies everywhere directives are present, so that's missions, open world, summit, and note directives still increase XP as well. So those are the changes, and on paper, you know, they look good to me, but I have to admit, I think I may have misread the initial communication we got about these changes to directives. Now my understanding was that targeted loot drop chance would vary depending on how many directives you had on, which is exactly what it says. But I thought that meant that we'd get more drops, which is actually not the case. So when it comes to the summit, this is a real issue, as the summit does have a real loot problem, something I will discuss in this video. The problem being that, you know, where is all the loot? Now I guess the major issue with the directive change, specifically in the summit actually, is the lack of loot drops mean that, yeah, you've got a higher chance of getting the targeted loot that you want, but it doesn't matter if there's no drops in the first place. And this is especially brutal for solo players. So I played through the summit yesterday for, I think for the first kind of like 10 levels, mainly just to see how the targeted loot was kind of looking. Now I tried it with no directives, I tried it with one directive, and then I tried it with 3 directives. You know, all in all, I did see an increase in the amount of targeted loot that I picked up, albeit a very, very, very tiny increase. You know, the only reason that I noticed the increase is because I was paying attention to it. That dropped, and I suspect that when you have 9 directives active, you'd probably see more. Now, the amount I don't actually know. In the game, it says that you get 9 times for 9 directives. Some people I've seen say this is just 9% extra, so it's just 1% per directive. But at least from my initial testing, it feels a little bit more than that maybe, but really it doesn't feel all that much. And like I said, it's probably because I'm paying attention to it. If I wasn't paying attention to it and I was just playing, it probably felt like you didn't really see any change whatsoever. Now maybe the devs could tell us more or about this. Maybe they could actually give us the exact amount, because we don't know that, unless I've missed it. And if I have, then let me know in the comments down below. As of me recording this video though, a new maintenance has come up, or the new maintenance notes have come up. The maintenance coming out tomorrow. One of the notes on there directly impacts this video, which says fix an issue where targeted loot drop chance was too low when playing with active directives in the summit. So it does look as though we are going to see some changes to that. It does look as though it probably was too low when I played, and I've seen other people talking about this saying it's too low, so that's going to change. I'm hoping with tomorrow's maintenance we'll start to see, you know, a big difference in the targeted loot drop chance. But you know, ultimately this isn't going to fix a huge problem with this mode, and that's the overall loot drop chance. Now in my 10 runs, which took, you know, a little while to go through, I was playing on heroic, I only got about 2 pieces of gear per floor. So about 20 pieces of gear in about 30 minutes or so, maybe a bit more. I can't remember how long it actually took me, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more, but 30 minutes being kind of the average for me. Now the time it takes to complete will vary, obviously, on the encounters that you get. You know, some encounters take a lot longer, some of them, like clear the floor, is a lot easier, so it doesn't take quite as long. Ones where you have to hold shade crates, especially as a solo player, takes a lot longer. You have to be a lot more, well, you have to certainly take a different approach to it, and that just takes a lot longer. But for the sake of this video, 20 items in 30 minutes. While I can easily get double this amount by doing control points, or, you know, doing missions, or just roaming the world and doing world activities. As a solo player, it's great that I can choose my targeted loot in the summit, a change that I think needs to happen across every activity and the open world. But as a solo player, I can basically do this in the open world anyway, by just selecting the area or the activity I need for the targeted loot. But here, I'm going to get way more loot than the summit. Yeah, of course, some of the stuff I just don't want to do. If it's Providence at a specific mission, yeah, I'm not going to do it, right? And I'd rather go in the summit and do it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't feel good. So I guess the question is, why would I farm the summit for loot? The summit needs to be as rewarding, if not more rewarding, especially if the devs want people to go in there. And that's what the devs want. They want us all to engage in this activity. So maybe make it more rewarding, but it certainly needs to be as rewarding as completing other activities in the game. Control points. Otherwise, I fear people just simply won't play the mode, especially when and if we get a year 3 expansion with a level increase and we have to farm gear again. Fortunately right now, most people, well, a lot of people, they have pretty much everything they want and are just really playing for the enjoyment of the mode rather than for the loot. But when loot is the priority, at the start of an expansion or a level increase DLC, whatever it is, when loot is a priority and when XP is a priority, this being another thing the devs need to look at in the summit, XP, because it doesn't give enough XP. 10 levels in the summit is not comparable to just doing one control point when you've got directives on and stuff when you're doing those control points. It's just not comparable. It's just not as rewarding as doing control points. So XP is another problem, or just other activities. They're just vastly more rewarding in terms of loot and experience. And when we do get, if we do get another expansion where we get that level increase, people are going to do the stuff that's the most rewarding. People are going to move away from the summit if it's not been fixed by then, and they're going to do the stuff that's way more rewarding. And by the way, those 20 items that I got, I may have been lucky. That's RNG. And it could be far less for others. And I think actually it is for a lot of people. I was watching the EK1 gaming stream yesterday for a little bit, and his group mate basically got no drops. I don't think they got any drops for like the first 3 or 4 levels. It may even be longer than that. So it could easily be that you do 10 levels and you get 10 drops. You could even get less than 10 drops. So let's say, for example, you got 10 or less drops every 30 minutes. That's not good enough. So they can make all the changes that they need to this targeted loot, which they're doing for tomorrow. But ultimately, the biggest issue is the loot in general, the amount of loot drops that you get in the summit, and that applies to XP as well. So the devs really need to look at this first before they start fixing the other issues. Because at the end of the day, if I go into the summit now and I only get, 10 drops in 10 levels, and yeah, it's going to be targeted loot, but if I only get 10 drops in 10 levels, what's the point when I can do control points and get way more? Apologies for the barking dog there, guys. I was going to start again, but yeah, I'm just too lazy for that, so there you go. Now, I did want to end the video with something more positive, and that's the new mask in the game called Adamant. Now, GC Rock, fellow YouTube content creator here on YouTube, who does Division content, really good YouTuber, someone I highly recommend you guys go check out, did give me permission to use his footage showing him getting this drop. So from what I understand, this drops on any difficulty when completing level 100 of the summit. The mask, I think, looks okay. It's not my favourite by any means, but I will say this, more of this please, devs. As a content creator who looks to cover the news of this game, it's great when the devs tell us everything about what's coming out, because I can cover it, I can make videos, and as a creator, that's good for me. But on the other hand, as someone who enjoys playing video games, I want to go into a new season or expansion knowing nothing and seeing it all for myself for the first time in game, not on a stream 3 weeks before or some beta 4 weeks before. So having something like this drop with no prior knowledge of anything like this, I just think it's really cool, and I encourage the devs to do this more often, please. With that said, guys, that's the end of the video. Hopefully you did enjoy this one. If you did stick around to the end, really do appreciate it. Guys, I have a question if you want to leave it down in the comments below. There's a lot of games coming out this month that I'm considering playing. Watch Dogs Legion, we got Cyberpunk coming out shortly, we got Assassin's Creed. They're games that I probably want to start playing, possibly, but I don't know if I should cover them here on the channel. So let me know in the comments below if that's something that you'd be interested in watching, and if I get enough people that are interested in it, then I'll probably go ahead and do that. But yeah, would really appreciate all your feedback. But with that said, thanks very much for watching. Until the next one, guys, epic out.